Welcome to another deep dive tailored just for you. And today we're going to be cracking open The Genius of Athletes by Noel and Scott Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
And, you're here because you want those actionable mental tools you can use in your own life, right?
Absolutely.
You want to boost your performance.
Yeah.
And this book is a really great place to find them because it's packed with insights from the world's best athletes.
It is.
Get ready for some surprising strategies because we're talking goal-setting secrets, pressure handling tactics, and even the unexpected power of just taking a walk in nature.
I love that this book goes so far beyond just the physical, prowess. It really dives deep into the mental game and reveals the strategies that anyone can use, athlete or not, to reach their full potential.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. It all starts with setting the right kind of goals.
It does.
And The Genius of Athletes breaks down this process beautifully.
It does. So it introduces a framework of 3 interconnected goals.
Okay.
Outcome goals,
Yeah.
performance goals, and process goals.
Okay, cool. So let's start with outcome goals. What are those?
Outcome goals are the big picture. So like winning a championship or landing that dream job.
Got it. Okay.
Then you've got performance goals, which are more specific benchmarks along the way, like hitting a sales target or running a personal best.
I see.
And then finally, the nitty-gritty, the process goals, and these are the daily actions, those little building blocks that pave the path to those bigger achievements.
Those are the things that we actually have some control over, right?
Absolutely. And here's the catch. The book emphasizes that fixating solely on the outcome can actually backfire.
Oh.
It creates pressure, it creates anxiety, and ultimately it distracts you from what truly matters, the process.
Yeah, I see that.
Top performers master the art of focusing on those process goals, those small, consistent steps that move them steadily towards their objective.
That's like that old saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But it's not just about taking any step, right?
Right.
It's about taking the right steps consistently, and that's where the book strategies really come in.
One that stood out to me is chunking.
Chunking, okay.
And this is all about breaking down those massive, potentially overwhelming goals into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Oh, okay, so bite-sized pieces.
Exactly, bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
And the book gives the example of golfer Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Using this to prepare for major tournaments.
Huh.
So instead of getting consumed by the enormity of winning the entire tournament, he focuses on smaller goals.
Okay.
Like perfecting his swing or nailing his putting.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So each small victory, each sub-goal achieved, builds momentum and fuels your motivation to keep going.
Okay.
And the book even cites research that shows that conquering those short-term sub-goals actually strengthens your belief in your ability to reach the long-term goal. So it's a very powerful cycle of achievement.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, so here's a strategy that might seem simple.
Yeah.
But it is so powerful, and the book really drives this point home. Write down your goals.
Write them down.
And they tell this fantastic story about Richie McCaw.
The legendary All Blacks rugby captain.
Yes, the legendary All Blacks rugby captain.
He was just 17. He literally wrote down his dream of becoming a great All Black on a napkin with his uncle.
Wow.
And guess what? He went on to captain the All Blacks to 2 World Cup victories. Talk about manifesting your destiny.
On a napkin, that's amazing. Like the universe was just waiting for him to put pen to paper.
Exactly.
So what's the takeaway for you don't just think about your goals?
Yeah.
Write them down, make them tangible, make them real.
I love that. And don't be afraid to dream big like Richie McCaw with his great All Black goal.
Yeah.
And the book talks about open goals.
Okay.
These are less specific, overarching ambitions that can feel overwhelming if you try to define them too rigidly.
I see.
So think becoming a successful entrepreneur versus making $1 million by next year.
Oh, I see. That's a great point.
It's about setting a direction rather than a specific destination. Gives you that sense of freedom to explore and evolve along the way.
Yeah.
And the authors even reference a study where participants actually walked farther when given an open goal compared to a specific goal. Plus, they enjoyed the process more.
Interesting.
It suggests that open goals can be incredibly motivating because they remove the pressure of hitting a fixed target.
Okay, I get that. But let's be real, life rarely goes according to plan. What about those curveballs? Those unexpected obstacles that threaten to derail our progress?
You're talking about
those things that are going to trip us up.
Those things that are going to trip us up, exactly. And that's where the if-then planning comes in.
Okay.
This is a brilliant tool for proactively handling those situations that could knock you off. Of course. You're essentially anticipating potential roadblocks and deciding in advance how you'll respond.
So it's like creating a mental playbook for success.
Exactly.
I like that.
And the book offers a fantastic example of this with NFL quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
In a letter he wrote before being drafted, he envisioned himself leading his team to victory even when trailing in the Super Bowl. And that's exactly what happened in Super Bowl OV.
He did it.
He stayed cool under immense pressure and rallied his team to a stunning come-from-behind win.
It's like he programmed his mind for success, even in the face of adversity. So how can we tap into this if-then magic in our own lives?
It can be as simple as, if I get a craving for junk food, then I'll grab a piece of fruit instead. Or if I start feeling overwhelmed with work, then I'll take a 5-minute break to do some deep breathing.
I actually used this technique in college. I was terrified of speaking up in class.
Oh.
And so I made an if-then plan. And it was, if there's a silence after the professor asks a question, then I'll count to 10 in my head before deciding whether to speak. And it gave me the space to collect my thoughts and just the courage to share them.
That's a brilliant example. It highlights how if-then planning can help you overcome those moments of hesitation or self-doubt that can really prevent you from taking action.
Okay, we've talked about goals, we've talked about planning, but what about the power of habit?
Oh, yeah.
Those automatic behaviors that can either propel us forward or hold us back.
Habits are huge, and the book really dives deep into how to leverage the good ones and break free from those bad ones, because sometimes willpower alone just isn't enough. We need to create systems that support our goals even when our motivation is low.
Yeah, because we all know motivation comes and goes.
It does.
So, the genius of athletes breaks down the process of forming new habits into 4 key steps.
Does it?
It does. Setting a goal, identifying the actions needed to achieve it, repetition, and consistently responding to the same trigger.
I love that.
And they use the incredible example of Michael Phelps and his coach Bob Bowman, who used what-if training scenarios to help Phelps develop automatic responses to unexpected challenges.
Remember that famous swim with the broken goggle in the 2008 Olympics?
Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat watching that race.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. And even with the water flooding into his goggles, he just kept going, no panic. That's the power of ingrained habits. He trained his mind and body to respond effectively, even under that extreme pressure.
Yeah, and so the takeaway here is think about a small habit you could start building today to support a larger goal.
I love that.
Maybe it's drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. Maybe it's spending 10 minutes meditating each day. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
make a consistent action that you can just build on over time.
Absolutely. Those small steps lead to big changes. That's a key message this book really emphasizes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something that can either make us or break us our emotions.
Yes, especially when the pressure's on.
Especially when the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So the genius of athletes really digs into this.
Yeah.
How do top performers master their emotions?
It's all about emotional regulation, and the book introduces a really fascinating framework called the red system and the blue system.
Okay.
So the red system represents our instinctive emotional responses, that fight or flight surge when we're under threat.
Yep.
It's all about those quick reactions, not always rational thought.
Got it.
And then the blue system, on the other hand, is our logical thinking brain. It's about planning, analyzing, making deliberate decisions.
Okay. So it's like the red system is the gas pedal and the blue system is the brakes.
Perfect analogy. And the key to peak performance, according to the book, is finding the balance between those two systems.
Okay.
When we're under pressure, that red system can take over, and this can lead to impulsive actions, bad decisions, and even that dreaded feeling of choking.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well. It's like when you're giving a presentation and your mind just suddenly goes blank or you start fumbling over your words.
Exactly. And the book shares a compelling story about the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 2007 Rugby World Cup, they were the favorites, but they ended up losing in a huge upset.
Wow.
And they later realized that their mental state under pressure, which they called red, played a big part in their downfall.
Oh, interesting.
They were so caught up in the fear of losing that it really affected their performance.
So they basically let their emotions get the best of them.
Exactly. And after that, they worked with a psychiatrist, and they developed strategies to shift from that reactive red state to a more composed and strategic blue state. And it worked. They went on to win the World Cup in 2011.
Wow, that's a huge turnaround. So how do we learn to do that? How do we tap into that blue system when the pressure's on?
The book emphasizes a really crucial point. Emotions are information.
Oh,
Instead of labeling them as good or bad, we need to see them as signals, messages telling us something about ourselves and our situation.
So it's not about trying to eliminate or suppress emotions, but rather understanding what they're trying to tell us.
Right. Even those seemingly negative emotions like anxiety can be helpful in certain situations. Think about pregame jitters.
Oh, yeah.
They can actually enhance an athlete's performance by sharpening their focus and giving them an edge.
It's like that nervous energy before you give a big presentation. If you can channel it in the right way, it can actually make you more dynamic and engaging.
Exactly. And the book provides a model. It's got 4 quadrants of emotional states,
Okay.
combining high and low energy with pleasant and unpleasant feelings. And it shows how we can reframe and shift those emotions. So if you're feeling anxious, which would be high energy but unpleasant, you might try to shift to excitement, which is also high energy but more positive.
Oh, okay. So it's about changing your perspective on the emotion itself.
Exactly. And another powerful tool the book highlights is reappraisal.
Okay.
And this is where we change our interpretation of a situation to shift our emotional response.
So instead of thinking, I'm going to bomb this presentation, you might think, I've prepared well and I'm ready to share my knowledge.
Exactly. They give the example of a hockey player who reframes her pregame anxiety. Instead of dwelling on the fear of messing up, she focuses on her preparation and her skills.
Right. It's about controlling what you can control.
Exactly. And this
Yeah.
is backed up by neuroscience research. Reappraisal reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and it increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in logical thinking. So we're literally changing how our brains respond to stress.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So let's talk about a tool that's both simple and powerful, expressive writing.
Good old journaling. I've always found it so helpful to just get my thoughts and feelings down on paper.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like having a safe space to process everything without judgment.
Yeah. The book shares examples of athletes like Serena Williams and Michaela Schifrin using journaling to work through their experiences, the highs and the lows.
Right. You can vent your frustrations. You can celebrate your victories. You can really get to know yourself better through that process.
And there's even more to it. The book really emphasizes the power of gratitude journaling.
Oh, yeah?
Research shows that consistently expressing gratitude can boost happiness, reduce stress, improve your overall well-being.
So it's not just about letting it all out. It's about actively focusing on the good things in your life, too.
Exactly. And then when you need to calm down in the moment, the book offers techniques like centering and progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR.
Okay, I've heard of PMR, but I'm not sure exactly how it works.
So centering is a really simple breathing technique. A slow, deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and then a slow exhale while releasing any tension you're holding.
Okay. Simple but effective.
Lots of athletes use deep breathing to regulate their emotions before those really crucial moments. And the book mentions soccer stars Megan Rapinoe and Cristiano Ronaldo using this.
Got it. Okay, so what about PMR?
So PMR involves tensing and then releasing different muscle groups in your body systematically. And it helps you become aware of where you're holding physical tension and learn to let go of it. And it's incredibly effective for managing everyday stress and anxiety.
There's like a full body scan for tension you find where you're holding the stress and then you consciously relax those muscles.
Exactly. And research has shown that PMR can even help with conditions like anxiety disorders and chronic pain.
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh.
Okay, but what about when our minds are racing with those negative thoughts? How do we quiet that mental chatter?
That's where grounding techniques come in. They bring our attention back to the present moment,
Okay.
which is so helpful for managing those intense emotions or those distracting thoughts.
It's like hitting the reset button on your mind.
Exactly. The book describes the 5-4-3-2-1 method.
Okay.
Identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
That's so simple, but I can see how it would be really effective. I actually used something like this during a really tough run once I was ready to give up, and I just started focusing on my senses, what I could see, hear, feel, and it really helped me shift my focus and just keep going.
That's a perfect example. Grounding techniques can work wonders even in those challenging situations. And speaking of challenging, the New Zealand All Blacks, after that 2007 World Cup loss, started incorporating grounding techniques to help them stay focused during games. They learned the hard way that mental composure is key.
It's amazing how much we can learn from athletes about just training our minds. The genius of athletes really makes you realize that mental strength is just as important as physical strength.
Oh, absolutely. And just like physical training, mental training takes consistent effort and practice.
Yeah, you got to put in the work.
You do. And the book actually circles back to a question we touched on earlier. What do athletes think about during competition?
Oh, yeah.
And they delve a little deeper into those associative and dissociative strategies.
Right, those different ways of focusing.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as one being better than the other, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of nuance to it.
Okay.
For example, they found that elite marathon runners, those at the very top of their game, tend to use associative strategies. They focus on their bodily sensations. But recreational runners often prefer to dissociate. They distract themselves from discomfort.
So it's about finding what works best for you. What works for an elite athlete might not be the right approach for someone who's just starting out or,
Exactly.
at a different level.
And the book points out that even for experienced athletes, excessive focus on bodily sensations can actually backfire.
Oh, wow. So
Overthinking every ache and pain can create tension and hurt performance. So the key is finding that balance, being aware of your body but not getting bogged down by it.
it makes me think about those times when you overanalyze your golf swing or your tennis serve.
Yeah.
You just end up so tense and you're more likely to mess up.
You are.
Sometimes it's better to just trust your instincts and let your body do its thing.
Absolutely. And speaking of letting go, the book highlights something I think you'll appreciate given your love of nature.
Oh,
Spending time outdoors can do wonders for focus and mental clarity.
yeah, that resonates with me. I always feel so much more refreshed and clear-headed after a walk in the park or a hike in the woods.
It's like nature hits the reset button on your mind.
Yeah.
And there's actual research to back this up. Studies have shown that even brief exposure to nature can significantly reduce stress, improve mood, and quiet those nagging negative thoughts, that rumination that can keep us stuck in a loop.
Yeah, it's like a mental detox.
It is.
Okay, so the next time you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck, a dose of nature might be just what the doctor ordered.
Absolutely.
Now, the genius of athletes wraps up with a really powerful message about mindfulness.
Yeah.
That ability to be fully present in the moment.
And that's where it all comes together, isn't it? It's not just about having a toolbox full of mental techniques. It's about knowing how to use them effectively when it matters most.
It's about putting it all into practice.
Yes.
Okay, so the book highlights this fantastic example. Tennis player Bianca Andreescu winning the 2019 U.S. Open. Think about the pressure of that final match.
Yeah.
The crowd was roaring for her opponent.
I remember watching it.
Oh, it was intense.
Yeah.
Yet she stayed focused on her game, on her process, and she won.
It's a masterclass in mental toughness. She didn't let those distractions rattle her. And the book delves into a specific approach called a mindfulness acceptance commitment, or MAC approach.
Okay, MSC.
And it's all about training yourself to observe your thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them.
Creating that space between the trigger and your reaction.
Exactly. It's about giving yourself the power to choose how you want to respond rather than just reacting instinctively.
So it's not about suppressing those emotions. It's about acknowledging them, witnessing them, and then deciding how you want to move forward.
It's about cultivating that inner observer, that calm-centered part of you that can watch those thoughts and feelings come and go without judgment, and that's a skill that can benefit you in every area of life, not just sports.
Think about it, whether you're facing a challenging work project or a difficult conversation or just navigating the ups and downs of daily life.
Yeah.
Mindfulness can help you stay grounded, focused, and resilient.
It can.
Well, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive, and you've got a fantastic toolkit to work with now.
You do.
What really resonated with you today?
So many things.
Yeah, I know, me too.
But if I had to choose,
Yeah.
it's that mindfulness piece. And I think that's what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah, and which technique feels most relevant to your life right now? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them with us.
Absolutely.
And remember, incorporating these mental techniques is a journey, not a destination. So be patient with yourself. Start small. Celebrate those wins along the way. We're excited to see what you achieve.
We are!
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for your personal best.